Welcome to the Rotary Club of Martinsburg podcast, where service meets community. I'm your host, Kevin Brackens, and I'm going to connect you with the people, stories, and projects that are making a difference here in West Virginia and beyond. At the Rotary Club of Martinsburg, we believe in service above self. Each week, we'll dive into conversations with local leaders, volunteers, and change makers who are driving positive change in our community. From community initiatives to global efforts, we're here to inform, inspire, and engage. So whether you're a long-term Rotarian or someone curious about how you can make a difference, this podcast is for you. Join us as we explore the power of service, leadership, and community in action. This conversation is made possible by Brackens Painting. Brackens Painting is the region's best residential and commercial painting company. When schedule and quality count on Brackens. We've got you covered. Darrell Shull, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being on.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So I like to start each one of these out with a little bit of background, where you're from, what you get into professionally, personally, family stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, the first thing I'll say is my wife says I can't keep a job. I have had a few careers in my life, but mostly related around communications, then politics, and now the law. But grew up in Northern California, little rural town, not too different than where I live now in Martinsburg. Carol grew up in Southern California. We met on a political campaign, and we've moved out here about 25 years ago or so.
Okay. When did you first hear about Rotary?
I was a member of Rotary in California in the mid-'80s. Okay. It was a small club, great little community right on the bay. It was a seafood port. We met at the seafood processing plant and restaurant, so all of our Rotarians smelled like crab legs.
Wow.
Just a nice little club, about 20 members or so, and I was a member of that for 2 or 3 years. Then life got in the way, work got in the way, and I dropped out of Rotary until I rejoined Martinsburg 6 or 7 years ago.
That's a long time ago, the 80s. Can you remember any of the sort of initiatives you guys had or the programs that you had with that club?
We were one of the first clubs in California, I believe, that allowed women into the club. It was an early initiative of the club, and that had happened before I joined, but not much before I had joined. And we had about a third of our membership were women. It was really nice because it brought in it changed our club from a bunch of old guys into a bunch of people of various ages, various backgrounds. It was kind of a nice expansion.
Inclusivity and diversity, that's the beginning of that, and it's a heavy push for that, right now in the last couple of years. So I guess that was the first steps of it. That's pretty amazing. So what year did you join? Was it 17 or here locally?
Here? Oh, I'd have to think about the year. It was probably 16, 17.
All right. And what inspired you to join our club?
One of the current members, very active. His father was very active in Rotary, Buzz Poland.
Yeah.
And Buzz was a neighbor, and we talked about Rotary. One of my first thoughts about joining a Rotary was I had to get together with him over something we were doing in the neighborhood. And he said, I can't be there tomorrow. We're serving breakfast to several hundred people at the park. And I thought, and he said, through Rotary. And he said, you want to come along? And I went along, and I thought it was really exciting. All these people, obviously from different backgrounds, all united for a common cause, not bickering about politics, not bickering about religion, not trying to one-up each other, just making sure the pancakes were cooked right and served.
And it's so organized. It seems like a machine. It seems like it's had that purpose, and it's been the same way, done so well over so many years. At least it appears that way, right?
Well, things like that are magic. Mm-hmm. Magic events and magic moments come together when people have a common sense of purpose stepping into it, a common devotion to service above self, a Rotary motto, and don't care who gets the credit for doing the work. So then you just need some leaders that set out the tasks, and everything else happens automagically.
Automagically. Nice. Nice. So, of all the initiatives, because our lunchtime club is dauntingly busy, one of the reasons I started this podcast was because I'm looking forward to learning about each program. I hope that the program leaders and the committee chairs are able to come in and explain, like, what does it take to set up the Veterans Day, or it's a Memorial Day breakfast that we serve, and who remembers the farthest back, and how was it, and how has it changed? Like, I want to hear the history of it. I want to hear why it's important to the club and why we've kept it alive, and then who it truly impacts. So I really look forward to that. But of all the initiatives that you've seen in the last 6 or 7 years, which has been your favorite?
That is a tough question, Kevin, because there's so many things we do, and there's some commonality between them in many of the cases. I am really drawn to those events that help young people in our community. Across the state of West Virginia, we have a problem with not having enough for our young people, not being able to keep them here. And our Rotary Club does so much, from providing facilities at local parks, the pavilions, and all of that, to helping the Boys and Girls Club with stress-free rooms, to helping the schools and helping differently abled children with specially equipped playground equipment so they can participate and be on an equal standing with other children in their school. And that kind of led me to what I think is a great program we do, which is our four-way speech contest. It's a district-wide contest. Most clubs in the district will do this. Any high school student in our area is able to compete, and once a year we have students come and talk about the four-way speech contest. Not just talk about what it means to them, but how they applied it in real life. And that four-way speech, or four-way test, is really a tremendous tool. It's valuable beyond a Thursday lunch meeting. It's valuable in just about everything we do in our lives and helping us do the proper thing. And to see young people, high school students, get it. And you would be really amazed at the quality of the speeches they give around that subject. We had one that was our club champion a few years ago, went on to the regional competition, and his speech started off with a simple statement: what does it matter about 27 cents? And the premise of his speech was, you go to the local drive-thru, they give you 27 cents too much in change, and you drive off and you realize that. And he examined the moral dilemma of a quarter and 2 pennies, and what should he do to do the proper thing. And it ultimately returned to the drive-thru and gave it back to them, where they said, so what? But for him, it was a major thing, and it was a compelling, riveting speech. The nice thing about it is we also give significant cash prizes to the winners of those contests that they can spend in any way they want to, and then they go on to larger contests in the region and the district. What I found really exciting about it also is our Rotary Club members and members of the community stand in line, basically, to be involved in that, to be judges in that contest and greet the students when they come in and do all those other tasks that are necessary. The last couple of years, we've done it at the courthouse where I work, and we fill the courtroom with volunteers and students. It's pretty exciting stuff.
So as a Rotarian, what are some of the criteria of being a judge of the speech, or what allows you the kind of the honor to be able to be one of the judges?
Well, I think that it's important that you have a good sense of grounding yourself and making sure things are fair to all concerned and beneficial to all concerned, building goodwill, better friendships. So our judges have been members of our Rotary Club, local judges, local elected officials. We had the chief judge of our circuit as a judge, and the chief magistrate of our circuit as a judge. And it adds some gravitas to the event also to have some folks that have prestige in the community.
I agree. And it must be a little intimidating for the students because I guess they have to work on their public speaking skills when they present.
I think it might be intimidating for the students, but having done this a few times in my life, I can tell you nothing scares me more than stepping in front of a high school class to talk about something. Students can also be very intimidating. At our Rotary Club, during school years, we'll have students come in from the various schools. These kids are amazing.
They're sharp, yeah.
They are amazing. I strive in my life today, at my ripe old age, to achieve as much as they do while they're in high school. 4.5 grade point averages, involved in 6 school clubs, leading volunteer activities, raising funds for the community. They're
Captain
amazing
on a sports
children.
team, maybe.
Oh,
They're
just this week we had members of our local football teams, high school football teams in. And these students are star athletes. Many of them go on to play at the college level, and we've had several that go on to the professional level and take their sport seriously. And we had students with 4.5 grade point averages.
Yeah, the quarterback from one of the schools had a 4.5.
And a number of them while carrying a major load of being on the team.
Yeah, it truly is amazing. I'm always impressed by the students that come to present, and I have to assume the ones that are motivated enough to construct a speech, present it, practice it, rehearse it, and have it audited by teachers or whomever in a speech competition. It takes a special character.
It does.
And I hope to get involved in that down the road too. I'd love to see that. I like mentoring students with the mock interviews. Helping them interview for a job, and when I'm supposed to ask them a kind of a series of set questions, and I never do, Darrell. I'd go way off script, and I start to get into why they are choosing a certain field, or why they're inspired to be a mechanic, or why they're inspired to be an electrician. And I always give them a little bit of a mindset shift. I try to tell them, yeah, you can be an electrician. They make good money. He's like, oh yeah, this and that. And I said, have you considered owning an electrician company? And he said, well, no, it's just, I know the electricians make good money. I said, maybe you make, and what I do, however the conversation is set, I help them with the mindset that they can actually look futuristically beyond their current station and their dreams. Like, what is the dream after the dream? Aim farther. And it's, I've seen many of their eyes will light up if they're able to maintain that conversation.
And I imagine in your business, as you're hiring folks that are not too far out of high school, that you probably see in some that ability to translate a thought into a well-presented statement. And that's a real skill.
It is, definitely.
And Rotary helps kids do that through so many of the things we do.
So we talked about the 4-way test. What traits do you think make a good Rotarian?
Well, this may sound strange. I think selfishness. Selfishness, and I'll tell you why. A person who has a selfish interest to advance themselves would be well advised to join Rotary. Because advancing yourself is not just money, it's not just position, although Rotary can help you with making, dealing with people, meeting new people, and improving your business connections. But selfishness and improvement also has to do with expanding your mindset, being more accepting of other people, and giving back to the community, and feeling that reward of helping people that Rotary helps.
So I guess selfishness in the way that you have the desire to better yourself, and you're smart enough to see that joining a strong, established, and organized community organization like Rotary will help you with that education, but also networking connections, and that weird feeling you get at the end of every lunch where you realize you're with a group of people who are all here to help in some way, different ways. Each person is different in their contribution. But as that collective has lunch, you leave with a good feeling.
And a selfish interest in improving yourself naturally comes with ambition.
Yeah.
And we need ambitious people in Rotary. It's our lunch meetings and our activities are not the place to come and take a nap.
That's for sure.
We are an active club that does a lot. And as you just said, you don't have to do everything, but you have to do something.
I think at some point I'm going to have an episode where I'll get people in who can kind of quantify a brag sheet. I'm going to say, hey, I want to go over the last decade. Let's just scrape the top 5 things each year that was done each year. And if we just rattle them off, there's pavilions that have been built, like you said, playgrounds, there's pathways, like walking paths, there's the health screenings, there's the pancakes for polio, there's shelter box, there's so many initiatives that you're right, you've got to be ambitious, especially if you end up in a leadership role, because it is genuinely a part-time job, if not close to a full-time job at the higher levels you get, because of the level of responsibility. And it looks like a lot of the responsibility has been systemized to some extent, but it truly is an impressive club in what it gets done. And I think we haven't celebrated the successes as well as we could. And if we celebrated them a little bit better, that may draw new members in, because it's like, that is amazing what they've done, that kind of thing. So it's not so much bragging, it's about bringing people's awareness to how much impact Rotary has, and it's volunteer based.
When I grew up, my dad worked in construction, and after he moved into another profession, he was always building something. And we lived in an area where you didn't have a big box store, home improvement store, and they never had a whole lot of money, so he was kind of a MacGyver of construction.
Sure.
Build it out of paper clips and duct tape. But he taught me, and he would say this every time he finished a project. There's nothing like standing back and looking at what you just did and taking pride in it. And I think every single member of our club can do that. An example of what I'd love to be able to do is take members of the club we have some that have been there for a long time. They've been long-time members, and they've been active in so many ways. Walk down the street and ask strangers on the sidewalk, although there's not many strangers in a small town like Martinsburg, but ask, did you grow up here? Did you go to school here? Yes. Did you have an exchange student in your school when you were in high school? Yes. How did that change your life? And they will have a positive story about having an exchange student in their school change their outlook on the world. Rotary did that.
Yeah. Let's talk about leadership. You are in a leadership role. You volunteered to be a leader, I'd say, about a year ago.
Well, I've been in various roles in leadership in the club for about going on 4 years now.
Okay.
When our district governor was president, she came and asked me to serve as treasurer, and I did that. And because of the work I do now, it's a violation of our ethics rules for me to be handling people's money.
Was the treasurer at a district level?
That was the club
Okay.
treasurer.
Okay.
And so we found another person to serve as treasurer. I remained on the board, and then when we had a vacancy as secretary, I offered to step in and be secretary. So I love being at the leadership level.
That's awesome. So describe to me a little bit what that role is.
In many ways, it's administrative, making sure our roles are accurate, keeping minutes of meetings, and a very ministerial type of work. But it's also making certain we're complying with our bylaws and our Constitution and with state and federal laws, because we're a nonprofit organization like any other nonprofit. There's lots of compliance work we have to do, so making sure we do that. And because I am able to be in the room for most discussions about Rotary, I try to be that person that sits back quietly. I'm not very good at that, but sits back quietly and then tries to offer a path for us. And I kind of enjoy that. It's another opportunity to build something and build a solution to a problem, and then sit back and say, I did that. I'm kind of proud of that work.
That's a wonderful feeling. I really respect that. And I guess I'm trying to think of, how would you encourage somebody to analyze their life, their balance, to determine that they truly have the time to be a leader in a Rotary Club, especially one as busy as ours?
You know the old saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person, because a busy person knows how to manage their time. I think that I would encourage them to look at work versus reward, and if you can step in and do something. We're not going to ask you to fulfill every role, serve on every committee, volunteer at every fundraiser, and give every dollar you have to charity. We're going to ask you to do one of those things or two of those things. Everybody can find time to do that. And if you want to see if it's rewarding or not, come along with me to one of our fundraisers or one of our meetings or one of our picnics or the breakfast where we're serving or the community cleanup day, all the other things that we do. Look at the smiles on the faces of Rotarians who got up at 5 o'clock this morning to be at the park at 6 in the morning to get ready for the open of an 8 o'clock breakfast and make it all go smoothly. There's smiles on their faces. You know, one of the things that I really like about Rotary, and my multiple careers, because I can't hold a job, I worked in politics for a while. And we all have political opinions, and it can be a source of some pretty serious discussions, and in some cases distrust and break friendships. Our weekly lunch meetings, we'll have 40, 60, 80 Rotarians in the room. We're not talking about politics, and we're not talking about religion, and we're not arguing about things. We're asking questions like, how are your kids? And those stresses that come from the rest of your life, because the rest of your life you have those conversations and those worries. And just getting together with other Rotarians that have a common interest of service above self. What can I do to be helpful to my community, my country, and my world? It's a really nice thing.
That's great. The limited time you have, because I've been calculating it recently, the limited time you have between the time you arrive at lunch and when the president hits the bell and we stand up to do the four-way test and the pledge and an invocation, you have between 6 and 12 minutes of eating and getting to know who's beside you. If you happen to sit next to somebody you don't already know a little bit. And then there's quite a few members, because there's over 100, but in the room there could be 50, and you may know by acquaintance 10%. There's really so many people to get to know, to do even a shallow dive on who they are, to get to know who they are, where they work, what they stand for, where they're from. It's hard to connect, and one of my goals with this podcast is to have these conversations where we can get to know what we have in common with each other, where our beliefs align, and what our opinions are of things. So thank you for being on here. And I have one final thing, and it's the call to action. If you're prepared, do you have an initiative that you would like to see grow to be stronger? And what would you say to the club or to new members that you want to see change and move forward and be better at?
We have, whether you've been a member of the club for a year or 15 years or 30 years, you have a knowledge base that's come from that involvement that is so valuable to a new member or a newer member. I think an area where we could really improve as a club is finding a way to have those conversations between experienced members and new members to help guide them along their way. And I think one of the best things they can do in that, and what a new member can learn from that, is, we all have a certain amount of shyness and reluctance to step into a new role or go to a membership committee meeting and volunteer to be a member of the membership committee or cook breakfast for 2,000 people at a fair. I think one of the best lessons that an experienced member can say is jump in the pool. The water's fine. And you'll find a loving, welcoming, rewarding environment when you do.
It's a great answer. Darrell, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great job.